On July 27, 1985, the chief of police in Hinckley, Ohio, would suddenly disappear, leaving nothing behind. A man who seemingly had no worries in his life, no obvious enemies, and no evident heartbreaks, unexpectedly vanished from the lives of his friends and family. Did he run away to start a new life, or was he murdered? An ordinary day turned unusual. The town of Hinckley in Ohio was in shock. How could a person so unproblematic and so delightful leave his life of utter happiness so suddenly? On July 27, 1985, the owners of K&K Donuts were unaware that this would be the last day their beloved customer would make a visit. Nag them playfully about the quality of their donuts, and sip his medium-sized cup of coffee standing by the counter attending calls for them. He would playfully warn every customer to not buy their donuts, and the customers would always sense the humor in his warning. Nevertheless, the people would buy the donuts Mel Wiley cautioned them about, and they would wink at him sarcastically before taking a bite. The 48-year-old chief of police in Hinckley, Ohio, would always return a smile. But this was an unusual day. Mel Wiley stepped into K&K Donuts, ordered his medium-sized cup of coffee, and bought a donut. As usual, habitually, he stood by the counter and answered the calls for Mary Kirby and Carol Kosman, the owners of that very same shop. The three of them were bantering about the donuts, not realizing that this was the last day this playful exchange would happen. The chief of police of Hinckley, who made their lives feel normal, would suddenly disappear. This seemingly cheerful man would leave the lives of his friends and family, never to be seen again. He left his first job as a fingerprint clerk at the FBI to join the Army intelligence as a soldier. Then he became a newspaper reporter in Medina, 8 miles away from his town of Hinckley. Later, Mel Wiley would be appointed as a deputy sheriff for the county. His superior would appoint him as a sergeant, but when he decided to quit, Mel Wiley was finally appointed as the chief of police in Hinckley, Ohio. With a population of just 5,000, Hinckley was a small, peaceful town with a low crime rate, but Mel Wiley as the chief of police was just the right person to catch the bad guys. He was the ideal person for this job, a trustworthy man with a track record of solving a bunch of cases successfully. Despite the tranquil surroundings of brick red houses fitting neatly into the forests, most inhabitants of the town would head to the bustling cities of Akron and Cleveland, but they would come back to their hometown on holidays to spend time with their families and head back to work. The town was neither unusually utopian nor excessively gloomy. Hinckley was just like any other normal neighborhood until Mel Wiley went missing. More than 37 years later, Wiley is still nowhere to be seen. A man with white patches on his skin from atomic radiation, which he got from working at the Nevada atomic test site, a lump on his nose, and a dark sadness in his eyes. Wiley was a person with a heartbreaking story, yet he still managed to make his mother smile, hang out with friends and colleagues, and do all the regular things just like any other person. July 27th was just a regular day for Wiley. He stopped by the coffee shop, made it through a mundane day at work, and had a date with his girlfriend. A kidnapping, a murder, or intentional disappearance. Before disappearing into the void, Mel Wiley talked to his mother on the phone on July 24th, telling her that he would come to visit on Sunday. It was a regular call, and Wiley said nothing that would concern his mother. However, Wiley did not visit his mother that Sunday. Instead, his very cherished Toyota station wagon was found near the store of Lake Erie at Edgewater Park near Hinckley. Wiley did not show up at the coffee shop and no one noticed. On Tuesday, Wiley's abandoned Toyota was identified by a sergeant who forcibly unlocked the car to check if it belonged to his chief. David, Wiley's sergeant, found his boss's badge, driver's license, police ID, a pair of pants and a t-shirt, a belt, shoes, socks, sunscreen, and a towel. Mel's wallet contained a total of $15. All of his belongings were untouched in his abandoned car. However, there was no sign of Mel Wiley anywhere in the neighborhood. The officers in charge of the investigation brought up the possibility of Mel Wiley drowning in the lake. Soon, the waters of Edgewater Park were checked. Some thought the warm water in July would lift his body to the surface. Nothing was found. Later, his close friends and family told the investigators it was very unlikely that Wiley had died from drowning. As a person who had a skin condition and who was insecure about his white patches, Wiley would never swim, either with company or alone. David would call his wife to help him out in the investigation. Virginia Yates, a full-time dispatcher in the police department, would accompany a detective, Jim Bigham, to Wiley's apartment. The two found a window open. It felt like Wiley had opened the window for his cats who were left alone in the house. Virginia and Jim found cat food worth days, portioned in the plates, and extra water for the cats. The police have now started to think that Wiley has disappeared of his own accord. Mel Wiley's house search revealed another surprising detail. Even though his official documents and bills were intact in their place, his mystery novel that he was working on and his book of poems was gone with the chief. His music tapes and his novel manuscripts disappeared as well. Because Wiley had white patches on his skin, he would mostly wear full-sleeve shirts, most of which were gone with him. His address book, stamps, envelopes, typewriter paper, and even the food in his refrigerator were gone. At the same time, David Yates opened Wiley's drawer at Hinckley Police Station. To his surprise, David found his chief's drawer sparkly clean. There was, however, one key placed in the middle of the drawer with a red tag. This tag read 104-B, Wiley's apartment number. Later, they would find his apartment had all his belongings, except a few which Wiley held close to his heart. It started to feel like a planned disappearance. After the key to his apartment was found, Jim decided to talk to Wiley's girlfriend he had been seeing some months after his divorce. She informed the detective that Wiley had told her he would go on a swim on the weekend. Wiley told his girlfriend that he would buy a bathing suit that was on sale in Kmart. Jim went to the Kmart to inquire about the purchase, only to find out that there was no sale and no buyer with the name of Mel Wiley. Little did he know, another surprise was waiting for him in the office. Back at the police station, Virginia found a letter from Wiley to his friend. The letter said that Wiley had decided to never return back to his old life. Although he'll visit sometime, nobody will see him or meet him ever again. The letter strongly indicated that Mel Wiley was fed up with his life and he left willingly. However, this observation did not seem to add up either. To add further to the detective's shock, there had been no huge withdrawal of money when Jim checked Wiley's bank account. His police pension had thousands of dollars left untouched by their owner, even though the letter clearly revealed that Wiley has left his life willingly. His friends and family would wonder why. What happened so suddenly that he had to disappear from everyone's life? Even though Wiley had several ups and downs in his life, he had nothing huge going on that would alarm the people around him. As a police officer, Wiley did not engage in much trouble, if any at all. He had made no enemies and definitely did not involve himself in dangerous cases that would harm him in any way. Several years later, questions remain. His mother would wonder why her son left so suddenly. Wiley was planning to retire at age 50. He had his whole life planned ahead after retirement. Wiley was supposed to publish his mystery novel and continue writing and exploring different genres. He had enough money in his bank to live a good life. Wiley had his mother, his friends, and people who loved him. Even though his marriage had failed, Wiley was still going out and seeing what else life had to offer. No observation that the investigators made added up in this case. There was no chance of a homicide. Wiley had no apparent enemies. The only possibility left was that Mel Wiley had left on his own. Even a deep investigation in this case did not leave a single trace that would lead to Mel Wiley. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, but nothing in the case had solid evidence that provided Mel Wiley was kidnapped. More than 37 years later, Mel Wiley is still alive in the memories of his friends and family. Even though nobody knows whether he's dead or alive right now, they still believe that their cherished Mel Wiley lived a good life, achieving his aims of living in San Francisco, writing a book, and reading poems all day long. Mel Wiley left an empty space in the hearts of his loved ones, which had failed to be filled several decades later. His story is still alive in the neighborhood of Hinckley, and now within this video. An ordinary town that once had no worries now feels melancholic without the man who had a good sense of humor and a trustworthy aura.